The first debate is now over, and the two political parties are going to host their conventions. This month, the Republicans will gather in Milwaukee, and in August, the Democrats will descend upon Chicago to formally nominate Donald Trump and Joe Biden for a rematch of the 2020 election. But this year, we won't be dealing with a heavy-handed government telling us to wear masks, stay away from people, and mail in our ballots, because it would just be too dangerous to actually show up at the polling places. Now, we now know that there was as much misinformation about the origins and dangers of COVID as there was truth. And there were a lot of outright lies that were told to us. As we learned it, it wasn't so much to control a disease, but to control we the people. Joe Biden barely popped his head out of his basement in 2020. He couldn't draw a crowd of more than a handful of cars in a parking lot. But we're supposed to believe that he got 16 million more votes than Barack Obama ever did, arguably, who was a genuinely popular Democrat president. I don't know if you know this or not, but Donald Trump actually received more votes in 2020 than anyone ever running for president in American history. But somehow Joe Biden got 8 million more votes than Trump and narrowly won key swing states. As you may remember, Trump led in most of those states at midnight, but by 4 a.m., there was an avalanche of wee hour votes that put Biden ahead. And God forbid if you even question whether there were any irregularities, because you would be labeled an election denier. Hey, I don't know of anyone who denied there was an election, but many people did question the validity of some of the votes, some that were mailed in after the deadline, some that were cast by dead people, and then some that were mailed in without any way of knowing whether they were legitimate. Never mind that after Trump won the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton said that he had cheated and he was an illegitimate president, which was, by the way, a sentiment echoed by Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and most of Hollywood. Now, I'm convinced that more is at stake with this election than ever before. I mean, I really believe that. We now have the clear contrast between Bidenomics and MAGAnomics. And you can determine if your paycheck spread further under Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Under which president you could better afford bacon, butter, bread, and bologna? Or which president's administration made it easier or harder to put gas in your car or to heat and cool your home? And whether you could afford a home at all, since the interest rates doubled under Bidenomics. And was our world safer under Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Under whom did Russia invade Ukraine or Hamas slaughter Jews in Israel? Whose leadership left thousands of Americans and $70 billion worth of military hardware in Afghanistan? And under whose direction did our border become an open door for over 10 million illegal immigrants who showed up demanding housing, education, medical care, and food? The next 2 months of summer will give Americans a real chance to hear the platforms of the parties and to hear the speeches of the candidates. But I'm going to suggest something to you. Pay less attention to what the parties and the candidates say, and to ask yourself this simple question: which America was best for you and your family? Do you feel our streets and cities are safer under Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Can you better afford necessities under Bidenomics or MAGAnomics? Do you trust the government to be fair and just with everyone? Or do you fear that those in power will use the powerful levers of government machinery to crush their political opponents in courtrooms rather than in the court of public opinion and legitimate votes by qualified citizen voters? You know, this election is simply not about the personality of either candidate. You can argue that both of them are old white guys, and they got plenty of critics, and they deserve some, if not all, of the criticism they get. But you're going to be casting a ballot for the leader whose policies you're going to have to live under for 4 years. If you think your life and that of your family have been better under Joe Biden, then you should vote for him. If you and your family were better off during Donald Trump's presidency, then you ought to vote for him. Or you could just not vote, and then you'd let the rest of us decide. But if that's what you do, hey, don't complain about the leadership that you get for the next 4 years.